I have been developing games as a solo game developer for about 1 year now. In this video I will be talking about what I've made so far. My journey as an indie game dev officially started with the GMTK Game Jam last year. With the theme Roles Reversed, I've decided to make a puzzle game where you solved CAPTCHAs because AI couldn't. Drawing many small CAPTCHAs was tiring, but the overall game mechanic was simple. The game did well considering how simple it was. So I was happy with what I made. After that, I made my first mobile game, which was a hyper-casual game. I've learned how to publish it on Google Play Store, so that was also a milestone for me. The game, however, didn't do well. I might have been the only person who ever played it. I've made an idle hyper-casual game. I added ads this time, so it took a while to learn that as well. I joined a local game jam and made a typing game with pre-made graphic assets and sounds. The game was fun but also somewhat bland. The jam wasn't rated, which I don't like very much, since competitiveness is also what drives me to work harder. I've made a shooter mobile game where you aimed with your gun. It was more polished than the last one. But around this time, I realized how hard it was to be successful on the mobile market as an indie dev. So I've decided to focus more on computer games. I've joined my first Ludum Dare and made an interactive fiction game, where you were stranded on a boat with limited space. The chances of survival were dependent on your choices. I had a hard time making the main mechanic. If I made it right now, it would probably be very different. It was challenging and I was proud with the results. It did well on mood genre but not so well on others. I heard there was a big local jam, so I decided to join my first and probably the last physical jam ever. The theme was serious and different from the abstract ones I was used to lately, so I decided to make a serious interactive fiction game. I thought I made something nice and meaningful, but the judges didn't really understand the game, which made me kinda sad. I don't think I will join a physical jam again, but that sure was an experience. I joined a local jam. With the theme Mysterious Machine, I've made a game where you had a camera and used it to view another dimension. It was my first 3D FPS game, so I had to learn about that. The game made into top 50, but ranking order wasn't declared publicly. I started learning a bit about shaders and found a tutorial on a very interesting one and made a game with that. The shader made you perceive straight roads as curved, similar to Subway Surfers. I made a mobile game simply for fun. I also fixed my mobile game template this time, so for the first time, I had very high FPS on my own phone. I joined a local jam. This time I've made a 2D top-down shooter game. 2D looks simple, but it is always more challenging for me somehow. I did pixel art by myself and used menu animations to make things look nicer. I joined another jam. This time it was a rhythm game and I made a FPS game where you shoot robots with the rhythm. I used a cyberpunk kind of theme. After I started game dev, I've always thought about making a horror game, simply because I thought it wasn't very hard to make and many people played it. Even though that part is still relatively true, I've realized horror games told many stories in many ways. Before then, I was too scared to play horror games and never bothered to watch them because I thought they were just about silly jump scares. But as I started to search more about horror games, I've realized most are about a story. I fell in love with the little stories they told and the ambiences they created. In order to achieve that, I started with my first horror game, Intruder.
Intruder.
The story was simple, yet with an unexpected end. It wasn't perfect, but many people played and enjoyed that. I thank everyone who enjoyed my game, and I've decided to focus on more horror games, even though I am still too scared to play them myself.
Right? Don't gotta be scared.
Oh! Ah! Whoa, my fucking goodness, bitch!
Since I started my game dev journey with the GMTK Game Jam, I had to join this year too. With the theme Build to Scale, I made a game where you toggle between 2D and 3D to change the scale of objects based on perspective. Having twice as more time this year made me lazy, and I was barely able to finish the game. Somehow it did worse than my first GMTK Game Jam game in overall category, but I still liked the end result, so I am happy with what I made. And for the last 3 months, I've been working on my first Steam game, Recycle Factory Simulator. I started making this game on a whim, but I really like how far I've progressed with it and what I've made on this project so far. I've started learning Blender, and I'm making everything myself from the models to graphic design. If you're interested in it, you can wishlist it on Steam right now. There is still a lot of work to be done, but I'm determined to get it ready for the upcoming Steam Next Fest. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on X to hear more about my progress. See you on the next one.